Welcome to Driving the Lane with Randy Kraayenbrink and Chuck Rowe, a podcast presented by News Talk 1540 KXEL. Now, Driving the Lane.
Welcome to Driving the Lane. Randy Kraayenbrink, Chuck Rowe, the show where we talk mostly about one thing and one thing only, and that is
Panther basketball.
Now, it's important that we remind you that even though we are the official UNI Basketball show for News Talk 1540 KXEL, our comments may not reflect the feelings of our friends at UNI. However, Randy is a former player, and I'm wearing a UNI sweatshirt, so this is as official as it's going to get. We also want to let you know that portions of the show can be heard on KXEL, with the entire show found on the website. As always, we have a great show for everyone. We have the greatest Panthers radio play-by-play man ever, Gary Rima, joining us. And then we're going to finish off with the Financial Architect's quote of the week. Let's get started. Randy, we're honored to have joining us today. Drum roll, please. Gary Rima is on the air. Thanks for joining us, Gary.
Great being on with you, Chuck and Randy. I mean, just to be on Driving the Lane with you guys and to see how you've grown this show and what you're doing, just really impressed. And you know me, I love talking UNI Panther sports, especially UNI Panther basketball, and you guys heavy emphasis on Panther hoops, which I love, and just appreciate you letting me come on with you guys probably one last time before I call it a career.
Well, then you might be our backup host, right, Randy? Someday he could kind of join, because we got to join the On Press Rowe family. He could then maybe someday join our family. Randy's not saying anything. He doesn't want to lose his job.
That would be a huge upgrade if he joined our family.
So, well, as you know, Randy and I are both very appreciative of everything about you, because for us, we were on another station to begin with, but then we moved over to KXEL, and you let us be part of the On Press Row and the KXEL family. So thank you so much for everything you've done for us. Just wanted to start out by saying that, Gary.
Well, it was a no-brainer when you came to me, Chuck, and said, hey, what do you think about this? And you told me about what your show was about, and that it was heavy emphasis on UNI Panther men's basketball. And my sports talk show at the time, On Press Row, was heavy on UNI Panther sports, whether it was football, basketball, whatever the sport. It was a no-brainer to bring you guys aboard and have you part of our On Press Row family, and just really complimented some of the stuff that we were trying to do. And you guys, I love the angle you guys take on Driving the Lane. You have great guests on, you ask great questions, and it's not always just all the X and O's. It's some of the other stuff too, with some of the players and coaches and people around UNI Panther basketball. So just love the job you guys have done, and glad that you continued to grow this show like you have, and kept it going, even though On Press Row came to an end, just a couple of years ago.
Before we start talking a little Panther basketball, rumor has it that Florida is treating your baseball game pretty well. Tell us about your baseball.
Oh man, guys, I think a lot of people know this about me. Some maybe don't, but baseball was always my favorite sport. I wanted to be a pro baseball player. That was my dream. I thought, how much better could life be to go play baseball and get paid to do it? It's interesting. I found that same connection in my broadcasting career, that they actually pay me to go broadcast these games. But so I actually played baseball until I was about 34, 35 years old, played at the kind of the semi-pro level after I got out of high school. And I ran youth baseball teams out of Owine for years, where my three sons played baseball, and they all went on to play college baseball. So baseball's just been a huge part of me and my family. And I thought when I got done playing up when I was like 34, 35 years old, I'd probably never play again. But I get down to the villages in Florida, 55 and older retirement community, and they've got a 60 and over and 65 and older baseball team down there. So I showed up at practice one day about 4 or 5 years ago, when we were down there in the summertime, started practicing with these guys. And now I got hooked up with one of the teams and actually played in the men's senior baseball league World Series the past couple of Novembers, and just so fun. We play at the major league spring training facilities in Florida. And here's all these old boys still playing, full-size diamond baseball, 60-foot pitching, 90-foot bases, wood bats. I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually, when I get down there in March, our spring season starts up. So I'm actually looking forward to getting down there and playing some baseball this spring and summer again. The other thing interesting about it is there's a lot of former professional baseball players that still play the game at that age. You run into different guys. We had a guy that pitched for us that played in the Pittsburgh Pirates organization, and other guys we played against other guys that played for some pro teams, whether it was just at the minor league level or if they made it to the major leagues. But just really, really fun to play again.
Now, even though you've been broadcasting for so many years, you're not really part of the coaching staff, but you know a thing or two about a thing or two. What would you like to see UNI continue as they play Valpo and Drake this week after having such a successful run the past couple of weeks?
We have to continue to play good defense, guys. I mean, it's still, I love the way the offense is clicking. I love what we're getting at the offensive end right now, whether it's AJ Green lighting it up or Noah Carter getting his 15 to 20 points in a conference game. Really like what we're doing at the offensive end, but we have got to continue to play great team defense. That's going to be a key to keeping this winning streak going, and for this team to end up at the top of the Missouri Valley Conference standings when this season's all over. The team defense has been tremendous, and I was talking earlier, an interesting stat. The opponents this year in our 16 games have actually shot more 3-point shots against our defense than they have 2-point buckets. I mean, that doesn't even seem possible to me. I don't remember that in my 29 years of doing UNI basketball, where our opponent has actually taken more threes than they have twos. But that's the case right now. It's 450 or so 3-point attempts and 432 point shots. So to me, that pack line defense of really trying to protect inside the arc, protect in the lane area, don't, protect the rim, it has been working. And yeah, we've given up some threes. Teams have hit some threes against us. And there's been a game or two where teams made just way too many threes, and it's maybe why we didn't win the game. But in the long run, it seems like that's paying off. And that's that pack line defense that Coach Jacobson likes to teach, that help defense that they've got, working with this group. The other thing is we've been mixing it up a little bit. You're seeing a little bit of 1-2-2, 3/4 court zone press that's bothered some teams, dropped the zone a little bit, not a lot, but there's been just enough of that to keep teams honest at their offensive end. So that to me is a key. If we continue to do that, the other thing would be taking care of the basketball. Our turnover numbers have been really good of late. There's been some games we've had less than 10 turnovers per game. Anytime you turn it over less than 10 times in a game, you got a great chance to win. We've had games where we've only turned it over 5 or 6 times the entire game. And then if we keep rebounding as well as we have, really, really tough team to beat. I think rebounding is a big part of playing good defense. When the shot does go up, got to get the rebound. Don't give them that second and third opportunity. If you're doing that, you're playing great defense, and your chances of winning, to me, they go up tremendously.
So Gary, a couple of weeks ago, we had mentioned about the Panthers starting their role, being on a roll. And one thing we did talk about was defense. And obviously the lineup change, all of that. I don't think people realize how important team defense is as well as team offense. And so I think like we had talked, Coach Jake has kind of figured out, and the kids have bought into the defensive strategy that coach has as well. And maybe reiterate kind of what they're doing on defense differently than they were maybe the first 5 or 6 games.
Well, Randy, I still think it boils down to injuries and guys being sick and not healthy, that the defense couldn't perform at the level that it's performing now. I don't think they made any drastic changes, but you've got some individuals that are playing some really good defense. Nate Heisey is kind of the unsung hero on the defensive side. He just plays consistent, solid defense game in and game out. Trey Burhow was excellent our last game at Southern Illinois on how he defended. Tywan Pickford, I think, was kind of tagged early as one of our defensive stoppers, that they put on one of the opponent's best scores, and he's done really well. They kind of play that pack line defense. They don't want to let guys get right to the rim if at all possible. And, here's an interesting stat for you. And in my 29 years of doing UNI basketball, I don't think I've ever been able to say this, but this year to this point, 16 games into the season, our opponent is shooting more 3-point shots than they are 2-point shots. Think about that. I mean, they've taken like 453s against our defense and about 425 or 32-point shots. So that tells you we're really defending, I think, the lane area inside that arc. And it is giving teams maybe some open threes, but it's not hurting us of late. So to me, that's an amazing stat that a team would be taking more. Our all overall opponents and all the stats, they're taking more 3-point shots than they are 2s. But the team defense has been really good. How about the rebounding? Out rebounding our opponent, and that's with Austin Fife. I've got Austin Fife averaging about 16 minutes a game this year, but there's some games he's only played 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes. And I felt he'd be a key to our rebounding. We're still out rebounding our opponent. And that's, rebounding is just the will to get it done. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're Antoine Kimmons or you're Noah Carter or who you are. That's just the will to go get boards. But to me, that's a big part of defense too, is defend the ball and then go rebound it so they don't get second and third opportunities.
I've had the opportunity to take my grandson to the games, and you point out Nate Heisey. I tell him, I said, no matter what you do the entire game, just watch Nate Heisey. Don't watch the ball. Don't watch anything. You just watch how Nate plays. And I agree. He's a great example of, he just does everything. I don't care what it is. He just works hard and rebounds and guards and defends and shoots. And you need to watch him play. He's a good player.
I think he's been our most consistent player from the start of the season until this game, coming up against Valpo or this weekend against Drake. I think if you look at his overall play, every game, he's been the most consistent guy. Other guys have had outstanding games and then maybe kind of a so-so game, played well here, didn't maybe play so well there. But I think Nate Heisey's been the most consistent guy. And as a coach, I think that's what Coach Jake and his staff is always looking for. Hey, just be consistent. If you can be consistent game in and game out, we know exactly what you're going to bring, what you're going to do. And it's that consistency that is starting to gel a little bit for us now with some of the other guys. And I think it's one reason we're on a 5-game winning streak.
Well, Gary, you mentioned some of the injuries and maybe some of the COVID and health issues that have gone throughout the year. Who are one or two other players that have stepped up this year that you've been really impressed with?
Titan Anderson has showed signs of going to be a great UNI Panther basketball player. He's had flashes, guys, where he's come in and defended well. He's rebounded, scored some buckets, just a great hustle guy, just keeping plays alive. There's times he doesn't get credit for a rebound, but he goes flying in there and tips the ball. And then his teammate ends up getting it and getting the rebound. Really like what he brings to the game off the bench. And he's been a little inconsistent. There's been times he's come in and picked up a couple of early fouls and then had to come out. But he's a guy to really keep an eye on. A guy that started all 25 games last year, hasn't started a game yet this year, but is really starting to come on again, is Bowen Bourne, the freshman of the year from a year ago. Really like Bowen's game. And, he had that hand injury early. I think he had a little bit of injury and illness that he was battling through also. And he's just finally getting 100% healthy. We had him on the post-game show a couple of games ago, and he said he's just starting to feel really, really good again. And his injured hand, guys, was on his shooting hand. So I think that's bothered him a little bit too, but I really like the way he's coming on. I think he's going to have a big finish to the regular season, and he's handled his role really, really well. And that's been key with this team, is for everybody to understand their role, whether it's Antoine Kimmons, with him back this year and understanding what the coaches want of him. And, Noah Carter early on was coming off the bench and now he's a starter, and okay, no, here's what we need out of you. But just really solid play out of those guys. I think we got to mention Noah Carter, a guy that he has scored 15 points or more in all 6 Missouri Valley Conference games this year, and he's been outstanding. When we talk about how consistent Nate Heisey has been, Noah Carter's been that consistent in conference games, and he's having an all conference type season. And since he's been in the starting lineup, he's been super. So he keeps that going. We got a chance to do something pretty special here down the final 12 games of the Missouri Valley Conference season.
One of the things that are a little bit different, I mean, you talk about how the defense is a little bit different, but the offense is a little bit quicker pace this year. Now, being a play-by-play guy, how much fun is it for you with a picked up pace? Because with a slower pace, it's kind of like he swings the ball, he swings the ball, he swings the ball, he swings the ball. Now it's a little bit quicker. Tell us about, from your viewpoint, what that's like for a play-by-play guy.
It's always more fun, Chuck, to call an up-tempo game. It just the action is faster, the scoring comes quicker. There seems to be more exciting plays. There's no doubt. It's more enjoyable to broadcast that an up-tempo type game. I'll take any kind of win. I'll take a 49-48 win if that's how you got to win it. But there's nothing quite like a fun up-tempo game. And it's probably a little tougher for my broadcast partner, Kevin Boyle. He needs to kind of pick his spots where he can jump in and add some, analysis to what's going on and then jump back out, because with a radio call, you want to try and stay with the ball. You don't want to miss a shot going up. You don't want to miss a shot going in. So, just really enjoy an up-tempo game. Just makes it a lot of fun.
Now, as folks know, this is the year you're set to retire. You're known to be a practical joker. So could this retirement just be one long, elaborate practical joke for everyone?
Actually, it's not. It really isn't. This is going to be the end of it for me. I'll be honest with you. I even during the football season, and now into the basketball, as much I love it. You guys know. I mean, I've loved every minute of it. This career doing UNI Panther football and basketball has been, so good for me and my family I've gone to places I never thought I would see, and I've been in arenas that are outstanding and broadcast some of the biggest UNI Panther basketball games in school history and covered some of the best players to ever play the game at UNI. But there really hasn't been a time this year where I thought, I maybe should think this over. It just kind of feels like it's time. It's time to have one last go around, one last tour. I've been doing this since I was 19 years old. Almost 50 years of doing either high school or college play-by-play. I've worked full time since I was 19, and I'm really looking forward to going off into retirement and just doing some other fun things that I want to experience while I'm still somewhat young and healthy, and can spend time with my kids and my grandkids. I'm going to miss it. And when football and basketball rolls around, I'll kind of be like, oh man, I miss it. But it really hasn't come around to where I thought, nah, I'm going to go back and talk to my boss, Brian Gable, and see if maybe we can do another 1 year deal. That's not going to happen. This is officially going to be it. I'm really enjoying this last year, but I'm also looking forward to retirement with my wife, Marla Kay, and spending time with the grandkids.
Have they can you announce, or have they picked out a yet?
No, they haven't. I don't think I'm saying anything that I shouldn't. I think that we're going to kind of wait until more mid-February, even late February to I think officially advertise the position, put it out there in some of the different ways that you do advertise for a broadcaster. And Learfield Sports, they have over 100 colleges that they're doing the broadcasting for, and I'm sure that they've already made some contact with some young guys. And I've had a few broadcasters contact me and say, hey, how can I get my name in the hat? And I tell them what to do and who to contact and where to go. And Brian Gable of Panther Sports Properties will have a hand in it. Learfield will be involved. The University of Northern Iowa will be involved. And guys, it's a really good job. I mean, to cover, you got great facilities, great coaches, great student athletes, great athletic director, great, leadership that you get to broadcast for a tremendous university. And they're going to find a really, really quality person to step in and take over. And I'm sure they'll just do a great job. So, it'll be interesting to see who it is. And I have no doubt that Panther Nation will be happy with who comes in.
Brian Gable didn't call you yet, Randy? Oh, well,
he's called you though, right, Chuck?
This is awkward. Yeah, he did. So so then Gary, if you could go back to when you first sat in that seat for a basketball game, then what were the emotions like that very first time for you?
Well, the first time I showed up to do a Division I basketball game for UNI, I just had to kind of pinch myself. I mean, I was doing high school basketball for a number of years, all over Northeast Iowa and covered just hundreds of games, and always thought that maybe I could work my way up somewhere in the broadcasting field. But when I got a chance to call that very first game, it was really special. I got to tell you that I got a chance before I became the official voice of the UNI Panthers in 1993-94 and did the basketball season for UNI. Eldon Miller was the head coach and Kevin Boyle was an assistant. The year before, in the fall, kind of early winter, I think it was right around Thanksgiving of 1992, UNI men's basketball played on a Wednesday night at St. Bonaventure in Olean, New York. And the radio station in Oline, 92.3 KXEL, I was the sports director there. Claire Rampton was the play-by-play guy doing UNI football and men's basketball. Well, Claire had to do a UNI playoff football game on that Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend, and he didn't really want to travel out to New York on a Tuesday to do a basketball game on Wednesday night and then fly home Thursday and had the coaches football show on Thursday night and then the playoff football game Saturday. So the general manager at KXEL asked if I would be interested in filling in to do one UNI basketball game in 1992 out at St. Bonaventure. And I said, oh yeah, sure. Love to do it. Love to go do it. So they flew me and Verge Erickson, who was the color commentator, that we flew commercial out to Buffalo and then rented a car and drove to the team hotel and at St. Bonaventure. And I had to get a pregame interview with Eldon Miller, right? He didn't know that I was coming. He just knew somebody was coming to broadcast the game instead of the regular guy, Claire Rampton. So I called Eldon's hotel room, found out what his room was and introduced myself. And he says, yeah, come on over and we'll get the pregame interview done. Well, I had a portable tape recorder that I used during my high school broadcast. And I'd interviewed hundreds of high school coaches in pregame interviews before. So I go over to Eldon's room, I knock on the door, we come in, we sit on the edge of the bed, and we kind of just small talk for a little bit. And he said, all right, let's get this interview done, Gary. So I do the interview with him and thank him so much for it. And he was so gracious and kind. And I thought we had a pretty good interview. And I get back over to the hotel room where my partner's at. And he says, well, let's listen to your interview, see what he had to say. I put in the tape, I hit play, and there was nothing there. There was nothing there, boys. Like, you have to be kidding me. I had done hundreds of interviews and never had this happen before. Now I have to go back over to his room and knock on his door. And I said, Eldon, you're not going to believe this, but the tape did work. He said, okay, come on. So we sit down on the edge of the bed again, and just, guys, as serious as a heart attack. He looks at me and he turns and he looks at me and he says, Gary, next time before you do the interview, test all that out so you don't have to do it again. And I'm thinking, no kidding, I've done this 100 times. Are you kidding? So but that was, so really that was kind of my introduction to doing a college game. And I thought, man, it'd sure be fun to do this, full time, to be the guy. And then when Claire retired a year later, the opportunity was there, and they offered it to me, and I jumped at it.
The truth is they were going to actually hire him right away, but after that incident, they decided to wait a couple seasons.
Yes.
There might be some truth to that.
So, hey, what about the first time you remember saying kaboom and oh baby? How many seasons or games were you into things when you finally decided, you know what, those catchphrases are keepers for me?
I remember doing high school sports and listening to a lot of high school broadcasters, and kind of everybody had a catchphrase. And I thought, I don't want to just copy somebody. I'll try and come up with something new. And I was doing high school football on Friday and UNI football on Saturday in 1994, my first year. It was my son's senior year of playing high school football at Owine. And we had just on a Friday night, I tape all my broadcasts. I've just always done that. And then I'll sit back and listen through to them and just, keep stuff that I like, correct stuff that I don't like. I've always kind of been my own worst critic. So when people come up to me and say, hey, Rima, I thought that was kind of dumb when you said that the other night, I've already heard it and told myself that. So it never bothers me when somebody says, hey, are you sure you want to say that? Or, but my son Todd was the quarterback for Owine High School, and he threw a touchdown pass right at the end of a game to win a game. And I was listening back the next morning to the tape of the game as I was preparing for something else. We had that Saturday was the bye week for UNI football, and the play call was sort of like, Rima back to pass, throws it in the corner, caught by Geilenfeld, touchdown, UNI. Oh baby, what a play! That's a game winner. That type of thing. And I thought, ooh, that old baby. I kind of like that old baby on an exciting play. So I started incorporating that into exciting plays in my UNI Panther football calls, and then I started using it during basketball. And I remember watching an NBA game, and we always kind of steal a little thing here or there from different stuff. But I remember seeing on the front panel at a NBA basketball game that I was watching, it said, "Oh baby, I love this game." And I thought, I could add that. And that turned into, "Oh baby, I love this team." So and the thing is, it's genuine. I love this team. I love Panther football, Panther basketball. It's my team. We win with them, we lose with them. So that stuck. And then the kaboom, during basketball, I used to say a deal about, we kind of, he aims it, shoots it, boom, hit the bucket or whatever. And then along comes Kajoa Heligba, and Kajoa hit a deep shot. And instead of saying boom, I said Kajoa kaboom. And from then on, I just listening back to that, I thought, hey, on every 3-point shot, I'm gonna throw in a kaboom, and then a kabullseye, and then a kabang, and it just kind of grew from there. But the crazy thing is how the fans and the listeners pick up on some of that stuff. Guys, I'll walk into a restaurant, and people maybe won't say, hey, Rima, what are you doing? Or hi, Gary. They'll go, hey, oh baby, kaboom. Just that's how they'll greet me. So it's interesting how that stuff, kind of takes on a life of its own. But just some of the fun phrases and different things that I've come up with over the years.
Well, I know you said that you love all the teams that you've been part of, win or lose. So this is going to be a hard one for you. But when you think of Frokmanesh and Kansas, Washpin beating Evansville and Arch Madness, and Jesperson and Texas, which one of those calls are going to be your all-time favorite calls, and why?
Oh, you're going to make me rank them? Oh, brother. That Washpin shot was so big because that sent us to the NCAA tournament. The shot that Ali hit was huge, but it wasn't the game winner. It didn't, it was such a big part of that game, and it's what it seems to be everybody remembers. But Ali actually hit a couple of big free throws later after he hit that big three. I got to go with the Jesperson half court shot. It's the NCAA tournament. There's guys, and Randy, you know this. It's so hard for UNI to get to the NCAA tournament. The deck is stacked against a team like UNI. You're playing in a league where a lot of times only one team gets in. And if you look at it that way, you got 10 teams in your league. One team gets into the dance out of your league. You got a 10% shot. If you're in the Big 10 and they're taking 8 of 14, or if you're in the Big 12 and 7 or 8 out of 10 make it, when the season starts, you got a 70% chance of making the tournament. And there's times we've got 2 or 3 teams in and you had that 20% shot, or maybe 30, but not that often. So just to get to the NCAA tournament is so hard, guys. So when you get there, and then you're not only there, but you win a game, it's so special. I mean, it's kind of one of those, the shot that Washburn hit that puts you into the dance is just huge because how hard it is to get there. I mean, Evansville was within an eyelash of being the team to go that year, and we took them out and got in. But when Jesperson hit that half-court shot that put us on to the next round of the NCAA tournament, just the reaction of the players, the team, the fans at the hotel that night celebrating. I mean, it's so huge. The thing with the Ali shot, guys, is it was a big part in taking down the number 1 overall ranked team in the country, and still will go down, I think, as the biggest win ever in UNI Panther basketball history to date. Let's hope there's bigger ones coming, but to me, that's the biggest win ever the Panthers have pulled off as a Division I basketball team. So that's certainly, if Jesperson is the 1A, Ali and his shot is 1B, but I think it's because Jesperson's was the game winner. And that highlight actually still gets played a little bit on the NCAA tournament broadcast when the NCAA tournament rolls around. So that's kind of special too.
I have a question about so obviously you have those catchphrases, right? So every once in a while, ESPN will run a highlight and then they will put in maybe the radio voiceover. Have they ever used anything of yours? I can't recall.
Yeah, they actually have, Randy. There was a time when they used a little bit of that clip of the Ali shot. They used the Jesperson radio call the last couple of years when they're leading up to the NCAA tournament on great plays. They've actually used some of that clip where our call of the made shot.
Yeah.
I know during the football season, there were some times that ESPN used some of our highlight clips and stuff too. So yeah, that has happened. I was just going to say, one of the neatest things about the win against Kansas was when our commissioner of the MVC at the time, Doug Elgin, grabbed me after the game and said, "Hey, sometime I want to hear your call at the end of the game of UNI beating Kansas." And I said, "Doug, I got it recorded. I'll let you hear it right now." And I played the final seconds of us beating them, and down goes Kansas. And the commissioner says to me, "You have to send me that. I got to have that. That's going to be my ringtone on my phone for the next year." So I actually got back to the radio station, sent him that clip, and I saw him a few months later, and I said, "Is that still your ringtone?" "Oh yeah." He says, "There's some times I'm around people and my phone's ringing. I let it ring and ring so the people can hear my ringtone on what's going to play." So that was pretty cool too.
You think of all these great years, player-wise, if you can come up with a top 3 in no particular order, a top 3 of players you really just enjoyed interviewing, who would they be?
Put me on the spot. I mean, I love all the guys, but Seth Tuttle was one of the best. Seth Tuttle was such a good interview. I just always enjoyed getting a chance to get Tut on. Another guy who was really, really good, and I think that the fans enjoyed him too. Part of it is because he came across so much like a coach and was so smart but had kind of a cool sense of humor too, was Brooks McCowan. When Brooks had really helped get things rolling at UNI as our point guard, and now he's doing a great job as the head men's basketball coach at Upper Iowa. But Brooks McCowan was a really good post-game interview, and just so basketball smart, and could ask him anything, and he'd always have a great answer. Third best, Benny Jacobson was really good. Benny was a fun interview, always, always had a smile on his face, and great player, and good stuff. But, it's just, so many guys were fun to talk to after games. And even if it was after a tough loss, they would always come on and talk and open up and be a good interview. But I think, just without really overthinking it, those three guys really stand out to me as guys that I know we enjoyed interviewing, and we love talking to them all. It doesn't matter. And another guy that could be a bit of a character and was fun was Eric Coleman. When Eric Coleman played at UNI, he was fun to talk to, because he always had maybe a little different perspective on stuff. And he had that one year, he had a great year, but they were always bringing him off the bench, and it was fun to interview him and just get his thoughts on how the team was playing. And he was a great interview too.
Well, one guy you used to interview, and then he became your tag team partner, was Kevin Boyle. So tell us one of the greatest memories you've had with him over the years, and maybe one of the funniest ones.
He won't mind, I think, me telling this. So we're going into Loyola. We're going into Chicago to play Loyola, and I rode the team bus in for that game. And Kevin and I always roomed together at the team hotel. And he has a brother that lives in the Chicago area, so he drives in, spends some time with his brother, maybe goes out to eat, then he comes to the team hotel and catches up with the team. And so I'm at the hotel. It's probably 8-9 o'clock at night, and I'm just doing some late work and actually gonna fall asleep. And he comes in, and he's got like one crutch that he's got, and he comes in. I said, "Hey, what's up with you, partner?" "Oh, just my back's bothering me a little bit." So he goes, I'm just going to go to bed. I'll feel better in the morning. So he goes to bed. We get up in the morning. It's like, I think it's a 1 o'clock game. So we're going to shower and get dressed. And I come out of the shower, and he's already showered. He's already had his morning coffee, and he's sitting on the edge of the bed, and he has on a t-shirt and just his underwear. He's just sitting there. And I'm over, and I'm getting dressed. And I mean, now 15 minutes have gone by, guys, and he's still just sitting there. And I'm like, "Coach, what's up? Are you going to get ready? We got to go." He looks at me, and he says, "I can't put my socks on. I can't get my socks on. My back is killing me, and I can't. Would you put my socks on me?" So I had to put his socks on him, and then he was able to finish getting dressed, and we got to the game. But we laughed about that. We laughed for quite a while, but
Yeah,
we've had some great trips.
It's too bad he couldn't figure out how to put his pants on first. But
Hey, Chuck,
I thought the same thing.
Chuck, when we make it big time, don't ask me to put your socks on.
yeah, vice versa. Yeah, thank you.
I was also going to say we had an interesting trip coming back from Hawaii one year, where we got to Denver, and our flights got canceled. We ended up the weather was horrible. We ended up having to rent a car. We had our wives with us, and we drove back in a snowstorm from Denver to Iowa. And just the stories we told and laughed and, fought the weather. But Kevin and I have had a great time together, great trips. And he's been a really tremendous broadcast partner, guys.
Well, and that's why I wanted to ask you was about your travel, especially when you first started. Can you ever remember like the worst travel moment you ever had, whether it was like a 15-hour bus ride with the band, or you took a flight with a wing that was maybe duct taped together or something? Do you have any of those type of moments?
Well, back when I was the when I first got the job as the play-by-play guy for UNI football and men's basketball, I also kind of oversaw the network because it was headquartered out of our radio station in Owine at 92.3. So I handled all the travel for the broadcast team to get us where we had to go. We didn't always travel with the team. We did a lot of commercial flights. We drove to a lot of games. And back then, Verge Erickson was my basketball broadcast partner. And we had some scary trips, guys. I remember driving to Springfield, Missouri in January one year, and it was just about dusk. And it was kind of a misty, rainy day, dusk, and we're driving down Interstate 35, and Verge is sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm driving. We're just outside of Kansas City, and it's I'm like 5:30 at night, and we're going to get into Springfield about probably 8 o'clock or so. And all of a sudden, boom, a tire hit our windshield on Verge's side of the car. I'm not kidding you. We found out later it was a semi-truck tire had somehow, I don't know if it was attached to the side of a semi or on whatever, it was bouncing down the interstate, and it hit our windshield and crushed the side of my windshield where he was sitting. We're lucky he didn't come through the windshield. Scared the heck out of both of us. We got into Kansas City, got to a hotel, got up in the morning, drove it to a window repair place. They put a new windshield in it, and then we drove off to the game and did the game that night. There was another time we were on a TWA flight flying back from St. Louis to I think we were flying into Cedar Rapids, not Waterloo. And it was in a snowstorm, and the plane taxied all the way out to the runway and kind of started like he was going to take off on the runway, and then stopped and came on and said, "We're not going to fly tonight. Just doesn't feel right. We're not flying tonight." And he took us back to the airport. We ended up staying in St. Louis. Who knows what would have happened if he would have went up. Something wasn't working right. He didn't feel good about the de-icer or something. But yeah, we've had some interesting trips over the years. There's no doubt. There's times with the football team. I remember being in the Arizona airport for 5 hours because our flight crew had to have some downtime. So from midnight until 5 a.m. with the whole team, and we all laid in the Phoenix, Arizona airport until they could finally got cleared us to fly us again. I mean, we've had some interesting travels over the years.
Well, before we let you go, you've had an amazing storied career. I want to leave off with this final question, and that is, what's the one thing you want to be remembered for?
I think that one of the things I'm most proud of is that if I was assigned to do the game, I've never missed a broadcast. Never been so sick that I couldn't do the game. Nothing ever happened in my family where, I lost my mom one year, and I remember the family was talking about when we were going to have the funeral, and we were talking about doing it on a Saturday in January, and they're like, "Well, that's Saturday. Gary's got a basketball game." And I'm like, "Well, I can, I'm supposed to do it, but I can miss it." And they're like, No. Your mom would roll over in her grave if she knew you missed a game. So we ended up having her funeral on Monday. I mean, I had 3 kids get married, number of grandkids born, and just a lot of things have happened that, could have happened in my 29 years of doing games, that I was supposed to do a game, and the day of a game, I had to call and say, "Hey, I can't go today. This came up," or, there's been a couple of times I was pretty sick. I remember doing a football game a couple of years ago where I barely had a voice, but I went and did the game. So I think that's one thing I'm really proud of, is that I've always been there. I've just haven't missed games. And I think too, the other part of it would just be that I've always been 100% supportive of UNI. I'm not, I don't second guess. I don't try and, tell them that they're not doing things right. I'm 100% behind the coaches, the team, the university. And win or lose, they're my team, and I stand behind them 100% of the time.
Well, I think I've said this before, Gary, and I'm going to repeat it again as we let you go. I think if you actually pricked your finger, it would come out purple and gold. There's no doubt in my mind. We're driving down the road listening to your broadcasts, and you are correct when you say you are 100% Panther, and that's one thing I will always appreciate about what you've done. And I think you do bleed purple and gold. We'll figure that out someday. But thank you for joining us, Gary.
Appreciate you saying that, Randy. That means a lot coming from you, the diehard Panther that you are. And it's just, I've just had a great time being the voice of the Panthers. Like I said, I'll miss it, but the time does just feel right to step aside. I feel like I'm stepping away when I still have a little bit of game. You know, I'm not at that announcer that people are like, isn't it time for him to be done? He should retire.
Yeah.
And Tom Bowman of Learfield made a good point too. Tom's very high up in Learfield when I told him that this was going to be it for me. And he says, don't want you to quit. I don't want you to be done. You've done a really great job for UNI. But he said, you know something? There's something to be said for you making the call that you're ready to, on your own, to step down and be done, because that doesn't always happen in this business. I mean, there's guys that are told it's time for you to retire, or we're not going to use you next year. We're going to move on. We're going to do something different. So he said, there is something to be said for, you know, on your terms, your call, stepping away. So he says, I totally respect you for that. So that meant a lot to me too.
Well, I hope the Panther basketball team can make a long, lengthy NCAA run just for you.
Boy, that'd be fun. One last dance, boys, would really cap this thing off beautifully. Not only for me, but I think for all of Panther Nation.
This brings us to the part of the week that everyone has been waiting for, the Financial Architect's quote of the week.
The quote of the week. It's an old one. I think I actually had it in our original show way back a few years ago. I don't even remember how many years ago, but it's actually right behind me on the wall. It's one of those success stickers that you have. It says, you will always miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Oddly enough, I also miss about 100% of the shots that I do take in basketball. But I get what you're saying. That's a great quote, Randy. Good for you. Good for me. Good for everybody. Time to say goodbye from Chuck and Randy. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next week. Enter the closing music.